Hello and welcome to the last full weekend, unofficial full weekend of summer. We are in the Labor Day weekend, and we are going to have a guest today that is talking about backward design. And you may not know what I'm talking about by backward design. I just new to it myself. But Nathaniel Turner, he actually has started a movement of parenting by backward design. You're going to listen to the results. You're going to hear the success, and you're probably going to want to get into it, not only with just parenting, but with other things as well. We'll be right back after this.
Do you have the next big thing? That world-changing whatchamacallit? Do you have a story to tell? You need a show-stopping web presence. You need the web spinners at Webinet. With big picture solutions, spinning together SEO, stellar web design, blogging, podcasts, and social media integrations, you'll find yourself developing your latest and greatest thing, idea, or telling that next chapter in your story. Look us up today at webinet.com, and remember, you're not everywhere unless you're Webinet.
Hey, 4Ps audience. First of all, I want to thank you for listening to the podcast, The 4Ps of You. I thoroughly enjoy doing it, and I thoroughly enjoy the feedback I get from listeners. I hope you enjoy the stories and the guests that come on this program all the time. And if you do enjoy the guests and the stories that come on this program, you will absolutely enjoy my book, The 4Ps of You. The 4Ps of You are a collection of stories dealing with purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. These stories are there to guide you through your journey to see exactly what you want in life. The 4Ps of You is available on all forums. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Google Play. You can get it on Apple. You can get it anywhere you buy books. You can get it in paperback, or you can get it in e-form. Please, that's the 4Ps of You. Get it. Would love to have you read it, and continue to thank you for listening to the 4Ps podcast with Trunis Goggins. Welcome to the 4Ps podcast. Welcome back, I should say, to the 4Ps podcast. You know, today's episode, we're going to be talking about a man who was raised by a father who, I would say, maybe caused some second guessing and maybe some trepidation when it comes to this man having kids of his own. As a matter of fact, he says in his interview that being a father was not what he was in his plan at all. But he has really done a fantastic job. And you're going to hear a little bit more about this in a while. You know, I know that you heard the story. If you read my brother's book, you heard more. I had some interviews out there with the relationship I have with my father. I will say this, and I am going to say this, right off the bat, that right before my father passed away, my father and I had a conversation, and the outcome was amazing. To be honest with you, and our relationship, there was a great deal of closure that I had with my father, and I still wish he was with us today. I do. I miss him. He's been gone now for 11 years. Like I said, there are still times where I wish I can pick up the phone and give him a call. But in the meantime, none of us are very, even me as a parent. I love my kids very much, but parents make mistakes, and our guest today talks about how he intentionally and methodically tried to avoid, and definitely did avoid. He literally stopped the generational trauma that happened to him. He stopped it dead in its tracks, and as a result, he now has a movement. It's called the backward design movement of parenting, and we're going to talk a little bit more of that during the interview. We'll be right back right after this.
Do you feel yourself battling self-doubt or feeling the weight of uncertainty? You're not alone. Many have those moments when the voice of doubt speaks louder than aspirations. Introducing Triumphant. true stories of inspiration for those navigating the challenges of life. These stories aren't just narratives, they're beacons of hope, guiding you through triumphs of your own. These stories of inspiration, empowerment, and success will be available in April of 2024.
Hello, 4Ps Podcast. First, I want to say thank you for being a supporter of the podcast. Thank you for being a supporter of my book. If you want to meet me in person, it is now fall. And I have a September schedule that is pretty much, I will be all up and down the East Coast, and I'll be in two different countries, the United States, and I'll be in Canada. On the 14th of this month of September, I should say this month because we're still in August technically. On the 14th of September, I will be in Johnson City at Barnes & Noble, and I cannot say enough how much I appreciate the support I've been getting from Barnes & Nobles throughout the country, nationwide. What they've been doing has just been, I really do appreciate it. And then I will be in Canada at the end of this month. I will be at the Word on the Street Book Festival on the 28th and 29th. Now, the funny thing, that Word on the Street Book Festival is in Toronto, but for a brief time on Saturday, I will be leaving Toronto and going to St. Catharines, Ontario. I'll be at Chapters Bookstore at the Fairfield Mall in St. Catharines, Ontario, not too far from where I live. So if you live in Buffalo, the Buffalo Niagara area, please come up. You can come up and I would love to see you. But then after that, I will be right back in Toronto, I should say. I will be back at the Word on the Street Festival, and I will be there all day Sunday, the 29th, signing books. It is a great festival. I think it is the largest bookstore or book fair in all of Canada. And then I will say this, on October 12th, I will be in Indiana. I will be in Plainfield, Indiana. I will be at the Barnes & Noble bookstore in Plainfield. It's at Perry at the Crossing. Stores at Perry at the Crossing. Great new area. It's an outdoor mall from what I remember, but I will be at the Barnes & Noble there. And then stay tuned. I don't want to go too far ahead, but stay tuned for other dates that I will be attending. I do want to say this, and I say this with absolute excitement. I will be doing a tour the last week of March. I will be finishing off with a conference called the Anointed Warrior Conference in Sydney, Australia, but I will also be attending other places as well. I am now securing and shoring up some dates, and I will be telling you those as we get closer. Love Australia. I have a strong support in that country. I really do. I love the country. Cannot wait to go down there, shake hands, and see all of you in person. I will be in the Sydney area, and I'm going to tell you, I really hope that there is a little bit of inline, or I know there's an ice hockey rink there, but I hope that there's a pickup game when I am in that area, because if there is, believe me, I am bringing my equipment. I would love to play hockey on a continent so far down. Now, I will tell you this right now. If I do get to play, I already have my excuses lined up of why I was playing so poorly. And so don't worry about it. I got my excuses already lined up, and I think I'll be all right with that. But like I said, again, September 14th, I will be in Johnson City, Tennessee, at Barnes & Noble. Then I'll be in Canada on the 28th and 29th at the Word on the Street Book Festival in the morning. And then in the afternoon on the 28th, I will be at Chapters Bookstore at the Fairview Mall in St. Catharines. And then back on the 29th, I'll be at the Word on the Street Book Fair all day in Toronto on the 29th. And then don't forget, I'll be back in Indiana. Hope to see all my family and friends there. And I will be back there on the 12th of October. Stay tuned for other dates. I will be in Plainfield, Indiana that day at the Barnes & Noble at Perry at the Crossing. I will be right back right after this. Welcome back to the program. I talked a little bit about, the father and son relationship. I talked a little bit about what we were doing when I grew up and a little bit my side of the story when it comes to growing up with the father that I had. And like I told you in the beginning segment, I'm not the only one. My brother's not the only one that has gone through situations where, parenting was not, quote unquote, Brady Bunch or traditional. And my guest today, I literally met him just a few days ago. Met him through a mutual friend of mine. After we had one conversation, I was intrigued by his story. I was intrigued by his determination and his passion to literally stop generational trauma in its tracks. I mean, he stopped it. And as a result of stopping that, he actually produced just an outstanding, I can't even say anything. I mean, almost like a prodigy type individual. Nathaniel Turner, he is originally from Gary, Indiana. He now lives in Zionsville, Indiana. Funny thing is I literally lived like less than a mile from him for a long period of time, never even knew who he was, moved to Asheville, North Carolina, and a guy from Canada introduces us. Nathaniel, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Nathaniel, we were talking a little bit together offline, and your story is very intriguing. I really do want and you could start from wherever you want to start. Okay. But I do want to know about, you didn't even, if you don't mind me saying this, you didn't even want to be a father.
No, I didn't.
Because of your situation growing up. Tell the audience about about your thought process behind that.
So I'm just going to be Nate, because if you call me Nathaniel, that reminds me I'm in trouble. And hopefully I'm not
okay.
going to.
All right, Nate. Sorry about that.
No, it's all
You're not
good.
in trouble.
Good. Yeah, man, I'm from Gary. I'll start with this. My mother and father my father's no longer here in the flesh, but my parents were very different in their ideas about what they expected of me. So I have the name Nathaniel. My mother wanted me to be named Nathaniel because she's a person of faith, and in Hebrew, it means gift of God. My father wanted to name me Nathaniel because it's the name of Nat Turner. Mm-hmm. So my father wanted me to be a revolutionary. My mother wanted me to be a gift of God. So that is the genesis of my beginning. My father wanted to raise someone in 1965. He initially wanted to name me Malcolm. My mother was having no parts of me being named Malcolm. Malcolm had been assassinated just before I was born. Right. So she was having no parts of that. And so that those two differences are probably differences that existed throughout my entire childhood. My mother wanted me to be one thing, and my father wanted to be another, and there was friction because of what the two people wanted me to be.
Wow. But that is so with that friction about who they wanted you to be, and you had two different approaches, I know that you're getting two different messages in the household.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that in itself is confusing, because you're and I am going to use the biblical concept of serving two masters.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you?
So my mother would want me to. So I would go to church with my mother on Sundays. My father would make fun of us going to church. He's like, "You're wasting your time going to church." He wanted me. You need to know who you are. You're a black man in this country. You don't know who you are. You're going to be soft. And so his whole thing was to harden me. My mother's process was to get me to treat people kindly and love my creator and love my neighbors as myself. My father was all about, you got to figure out how to survive yourself. You got to figure out how to be tough and hard, because the world is tough and hard. And so those two things were very different. My father, in many ways, resented my mother's her style, because he thought she was going to make me soft and I wasn't going to be able to take care of myself. But in the backdrop of that, as I think about it, as I move on in my life, I know my father was born in 1942, and he was born to a 15-year-old woman in Alabama. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a 15-year-old in 1942 having a baby and they ship you away my father didn't have any experience with what it meant to be a father. So everything he was doing, he was just flying blindly, trying to figure it out. And as a child, you don't understand that. And so I resented a lot of that. As he's older now, or as I'm older now, he's no longer here. I don't have the kind of resentment that I had for him. Now I have a much more compassion and realize what would I have done if I had a child at 15 in Alabama, without anyone to guide me. What kind of father would I have turned out to be? So in many ways, I'm just grateful that he made an effort, because he could have done what his father did, which was to disappear and not been present at all.
Wow. So now you talk about the word resentment. I know you and I kind of talked about that a little bit. You don't have to share everything. I understand that, but how deep did that resentment go? Did it turn into something where you were just rebellious against your father, or what was going on with that?
So I think there was a resentment for everyone. I think my father resented my mother because he said there was other things he wanted to do in his life, and she wanted, and so in some ways I think he felt trapped. They were married. He didn't want to be a parent. He says, I asked her to do birth control, and she wouldn't do birth control. And then one day she calls me, tells me that he was in the service. He was in New Mexico at the time in the Air Force. And, she tells him that, they're expecting. And for the first part of my life, unbeknownst to me, my father called me Hap, as in mishap, because that's not what he wanted. Yeah. So there was clearly some resentment. It was resentment because he couldn't now do what he wanted to do in his life, because now he was a father. It was resentment because his wife didn't do what he asked her to do. I think she resented him because of the way he felt about being a parent. And certainly as a child growing up in that, I resented my father because it just never felt like my father cared for me. My mother says my father and I had moments where we were close. I don't remember any close moments with my father. No.
But you say you don't remember any close moments, but your father, I got to say this in the right way. Your father was absent, but he was not absent.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. He was there. He still took care of you. He still, but he wanted you to be a certain way, but he didn't. It's very okay. And I'm 53 years old and I'm confused. All right. From that. And I'm not saying that in a funny way. I'm saying that in a way because it's like, I want you to do something. I want you to carry on this legacy, but I don't want you here in the first place, but you need to be this way. Because if you're not this way, you're not going to carry on. But do I really care if you carry on? That's where I'm kind of hearing all these different things. Is that what you got when you were growing up, or no?
Yeah, no, it was a completely confusing time in my life, because again, as I look back on it now, because now I have hindsight, now I'm a father myself, now I have some life experiences, now it makes more sense to me. But as a child, it made very little sense to me that my father was never pleased about anything that I would do. I was a kid growing up with Gary. There was a lot of stuff I could have done growing up in Gary. I didn't offend anybody. I didn't get arrested. I didn't have any children. I didn't do poorly. I didn't do terribly in school. I wasn't a great student. I didn't do poorly. I wasn't suspended. I was like, dude, what else do you want me to do? I have a job. I have chores. I've started my own business. Like, what else do you want me to do? And nothing I could do was ever going to be satisfactory to him. Yeah, so it was confusing. Like, I'm trying to do what you want me to do, and whatever I do, you keep essentially like Charlie Brown. You keep moving the football. Right. Every time I run up to kick it, you move the ball, I fall, and we starting all over again.
Wow. So you go on, that's your childhood. Clearly, you're a successful individual. You go to college, you do all these things. When you left home, how old were you when you left home, first of all?
I think I just turned 18.
Just turned 18. And then so at 18, did you go out on your own, or did you went straight to college?
I went straight to college. I never visited. So if I backtrack for 1 second. So end of my sophomore year in high school, my father says, hey, in 2 years, you got to do something. And he says, and you got 3 choices. And it's like, what's that? He said, you got to leave my house. And I said, okay. He said, so here's your 3 choices. 1, you could go to the service. And he said, but you can't go to the service because I'm forbidding you to do that, because I went, and that's not a place you belong. 2, you can get a job and move out. And I'm like, well, that's not really an option. I've been working since I was 10. I've been buying my own clothes and everything and paying for my own stuff since I was 10. So I don't really see anything really exciting about that. And besides, that'll make me have to leave home with my mother and my sister. And then thirdly, he said, you can go to college. And at the time, I mean, I was a C student. I was probably like, I mean, if I was at 2.0, that would have been stretching. And now I said, okay, well, I got to figure out how to go to college then, because that seems like the only of the 3 options that I have that are worthwhile.
Right.
So I started watching some friends that I knew who were doing well, who were taking AP classes. And by then I was track. So you're familiar with that. I left the part of the Gary school system on the west side of town. And when I moved to the east side of town, or to Miller, which was at the time, it was a mostly white community when I moved there. And then there was white flight and it sort of changed. But when I moved there, I was tracked. So they assumed that because I was this black kid from the west side of town, that I wasn't very bright, and they put me in all the remedial and lesser classes, and I couldn't get out of that. So here I am in high school, and I'm in these lesser classes. And so I performed to the level that people expected me to perform to, until my father said to me, you have in 2 years, you got 3 decisions to make. So or 1 decision and 3 choices.
Wow, one decision. Either way, you're getting out of my house.
You're getting out of my house.
Yeah.
Right.
So you actually have 1 decision to make. Don't
decision.
care how you leave. You're just leaving.
Right. Exactly.
You go to school. And one thing I do have to, and I have to say this, and I'm going to kind of go off a little bit. I'm going to share a little bit. I think about you. You are just very determined. And that determination started a long time ago. You could have gone on a completely different track. And you did not. You actually became very successful. You went to college. You go to college and you're at a disadvantage. Me being a college professor, knowing that you're going in there with a less 2.0, maybe grade point average, you are going in as a disadvantage as a student. However, success. I mean, I'm looking at you 2024 successful.
Right.
What caused you to remain so passionate and persistent during this time?
During college, so one, I didn't want to go back home. So part of it is I did improve. I improved. I think when I finished, I think I finished with like a 2.6 or 2.7, which is a substantial improvement. Like those following 2 years, I bust my behind in ways that I didn't think that I could. I still didn't get my grade point up. Oh, it wasn't over 3.0, but to go from a 2.0 to 2.7 in 2 years, I started taking advanced classes. And I noticed, even though I couldn't get AP credit for them, I realized I was in the class with the smart kids and I was doing as well as them. So then that gave me some confidence that, okay, maybe I can do college level work, right? Because I'm in classes with the brightest kids, and I'm in advanced physics classes and stuff like that, and I'm doing all right. I'm in trig and so forth. I'm like, okay, I have a chance. My mother drops me off at Butler. That's where I went for undergrad. So I got accepted to 2 schools. I didn't get accepted to any of the state schools. Everybody said no to me. I got accepted to Fisk, and I got accepted to Butler. And if I can, I got accepted to Fisk because I met someone. His name was Judge James Kimbrough. I'll be remiss if I don't tell you about him. Judge James Kimbrough was the most respected person that I knew in the city of Gary. His son, Jimmy, was a good friend of mine. And then when I would go to his home and I'd have a chance to talk to Judge Kimbrough, he wouldn't say very much, but one day we had a conversation and I asked him how he became who he was. And he told me, I attended Fisk University. He said those words, I attended, because he didn't say I went to. I attended Fisk University. And then I attended John Marshall Law School. And trueness, that for me unbeknownst to me, became sort of the first time I recognized backward design. Because what I heard him tell me was, Nate, you need to get to one school. If you can just get to Fisk, like I did, you can do what I did. If you can then graduate from Fisk and do what I did, you can apply for John Marshall and you can go to law school there. He is the reason why I in many ways became a lawyer. Him and my friend Willie, who Dr. Underwood, who we talked about earlier. And so that's how I ended up applying to Fisk. My mother's brother lived in Indianapolis, and she said, hey, you should apply. There was a guy who kept coming to our high school named Mr. Pritchett. He's no longer with us. but Butler was trying to do some things around diversity and increase their student of color presence.
Right.
And he said, hey, apply. And so I applied. So those two schools said yes to me. Fisk lost his accreditation for his accounting program, and I wanted to be an accountant. Butler still had theirs. So like August 15th or so, my mother drove me to Butler, sight unseen, to drop me off to go to college.
Wow. Fantastic. So you go to Indianapolis, Indiana, you go to Butler. Now you're in college, you're doing your thing. You go on to law school. So you do exactly what the judge said.
Yes.
You know, you do exactly what the judge says. And what happens after that?
So I go to Butler. There's 38 Black students out of 3,000 students. So that was a huge change from Gary, because Gary's like 97% Black, Latino. So there was a huge adjustment there. I started our Black Student Union at Butler, helped get the Minority Student Affairs program started, ended up graduating in Butler, worked for a couple of years for the U.S. Treasury, and then went to law school. And got to law school, had a similar situation where some students were being, there was a racial incident on campus, helped the students lead a protest. The result of the protest is that the university decided they need to hire more people of color. And one of those people who got hired was the woman who eventually became my wife.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
So you actually started a protest just so you can get a date. Is that what happened?
Yes. That's a story.
I have done so many things in my life to get a date. Never have I created
never do that. Yes.
Any type of social justice movement to get a date. I really need to start
thinking about change your life, man.
I need to do that. But that is fantastic. And you guys been together for quite a long time now, right?
31 years.
That is beautiful. That is a beautiful story. So you get, okay. And I'm going back to your dad momentarily, because now we're going to get into another segment, but I want to kind of close off this part of your life.
Okay.
Here you are, Kid and Gary. Your dad is your dad. Okay. You come back home. Not only am I a college graduate, I am now part of a very elite group. I now finished law school, right? Went against the odds, finished law school. How did Dad feel about that?
My father said two things to me that I remember. So when I graduated from law school, I did something. They announced me last. So at first I was concerned, because although my last name ends in T, they skipped my name and went to the U and went to V and W. And I was like, whoa, am I not graduating? And then the president says, hey, we're going to call this guy last because he's done something that's never been done at this university. He's a guy who's not only earned his Juris Doctorate degree, but he's also earned a master's degree. So I was the first person to do a joint degree program at Valparaiso University. Wow. Afterwards, my father says to me, because they give me a little ceremony to celebrate me, and I'm in the back of the room, standing against the wall, thinking about what I got to do next, because my wife is pregnant and I don't have a job. And so, while y'all are applauding me about these degrees mean nothing to me, because in my mind, Trunis, I'm thinking about my father and all the years that my father didn't work, and all the times my mother struggled to take care of the family because my father didn't have a job. And I'm like, man, I got a law degree and a dual master's degree, and I don't have a damn job. And I'm just like my father. The thing I wanted to escape, I am just like him. And he walks back to me in the back of the room. He says, hey, can you do us a favor? And I said, what? He said, can you smile? Can you celebrate for a moment? Everybody's here to celebrate you. And you're bringing down the mood of the room by standing back here brooding. That's what he said. Later on, he says to me, it's great. You got a law degree now, but it took you long enough. You should be a congressman or a senator by now.
Holy my gosh, man. Come on, man. You know, it's the equivalent of walking across Lake Michigan and then your dad saying you can't swim.
Right.
Wow.
He said, you became an accountant. You know how I feel about accountants. You're a lawyer. You know how I feel about lawyers. My master's degree is in history and theology. He says, and you know how I feel about theologians. I was like, all right, man.
You can't do anything right.
That's nuts. Right. Exactly.
Wow. So we brought up briefly, you told me just now that your wife is pregnant. You're wondering how you are going to take care of your family. You were afraid that you didn't want to start again, that generational cycle again. And you didn't want your wife to struggle. But we said in the very beginning, you didn't want to be a father in the first place.
No. And for good reason, because of the father I had as an example.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you become a father, but even though you didn't want to be a father, unlike the story you said about your father, you were like, I'm going to be a father. This is not a mistake. This is what I have to do. And you took an entirely different approach.
Yes.
Explain.
So go back just a little bit. So I'm Latanya and I meet. My wife has a very tumultuous childhood herself. And one of the things that I wanted to do is I couldn't save my mother, but I met a woman who I thought needed to be saved so I could save her. So in many ways, I'd say to people, I married my mother, which I don't think is uncommon. I hear that all the time. Men marry their mothers, women marry their fathers. So she says one day, I'm ready to have a child. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. And she says, well, my biological clock is ticking. She's getting close to 30. I said, your biological clock is digital. You can't hear it. Don't worry about it. she's not having it. So she takes me to a movie in June of 1994. She takes me to see a movie. It's an animated film. It's the first of its kind. It's called The Lion King. I see The Lion King. Everybody walks out the theater. I sit in the back of the theater with her, and I cry for about 10 minutes because I finally saw in that movie what I believed I could be with a child. It took an animated movie to convince me to be a father. Wow. And once I saw that, I saw in that movie the kinds of things I should be doing with my own child. And so when she finally told me she was pregnant, I then wrote Harvard and got an application from Harvard to backward design a child's life. Because in my mind, I was unemployed. I was a lawyer who was unemployed from Valparaiso University, a decent school, not a great school. It's great to me because they accepted me. But it wasn't a school that when I walked in the room first or we got on this call, you just say, hey, today with us is Harvard-trained attorney, Nathaniel Turner, because that's what people do. Yale attorney, Princeton attorney. So like, okay, how do I do that? How would my life have been different if I'd gone to Harvard? Well, what would I have had to done different for undergrad? What would I have to done different in high school? What would I have to done different in middle school? What would I have done different in elementary? What would my parents have needed to do with me earlier from 0 to 3 or 0 to 5? And I was like, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to backward design a way to get my child to meet the academic qualifications of the school like Harvard.
Fantastic. So you do a backwards design.
We do a backward design.
Now, your son, what's your son's name?
His name is Naeem.
Naeem. All right. So Naeem is now born. You are now practicing this theory of backwards design on this son. How'd that work?
Well, so it started before he was born because we were practicing it while he was yet in the womb. So I found a gentleman by the name of, I'm gonna tell you later. But he was teaching children with brain injuries how to read and do math by 18 months. I saw him on Oprah the first time. And I was like, well, my child doesn't have a brain injury. And so I'm just going to do what he said do. And so I got these big books and I did things with the infant. I played language tapes in his crib because I started to learn some things about neuroscience and how the brain processes languages. And so we just did all of this. He was like a project. We just did everything we possibly could do. But after 2 months, he spoke his first words. At 10 months, he was speaking in full sentences, like you and I are talking now. At 1, I bought a computer, which I didn't have any money. I charged it at Sears and maxed the card out to get this kid this computer. But this 1-year-old had a computer. At 2, he got tested for his vocabulary. His vocabulary exceeded that of a 9-year-old. At 3, he was speaking both English and Spanish fluently. And it just continued to move forward. By the time Naeem was 12, not only was he pretty good in sports, he was national runner-up in the 800. He ran a 159 and 800. I don't know if that means at the time meaning anything to you, but at the time in Indiana, that would have got him to the state finals as a high school athlete. He was a seventh grader. He started high school in seventh grade. He had earned 33 college credits by the time he was a junior in high school. He had done all of his high school work by the time of his junior year, and he decided he was not going to go back to high school, that he wanted to chase his larger dream, which was playing professional soccer, and he packed his bags and moved to Brazil.
Wow. So he's playing professional soccer down in Brazil?
He went to Brazil, played soccer in Brazil's top professional academy, Desportivo Brazil, went to their other top team, which is Cruzeiro. He played there. He traveled to Germany for tryouts, and unfortunately got a concussion. He was there about 14 months, got a concussion in October of 2013. He left in June of 2012. Then he came home. He took a review class for his SAT, for like a week class, took his SAT test, got pretty close to a perfect score, applied to 31 of America's top colleges and universities, got accepted to 27, got scholarships by most of them, got about $10.8 million in scholarship money to start his undergrad experience.
Wow. So no student loans for him then, right?
No.
Good job. But
finished. Oh, go ahead. No,
go ahead. No, please. You go
he
ahead.
decided while he was in Brazil playing soccer, what he knew he wanted to do with his life. The academy sometimes didn't have great electricity and the Wi-Fi was spotty. So he said, some of my teammates live in Brazilian favelas. And you're certainly familiar with this. At the top of the hill, people have these shanty homes. If it rains real hard, the houses might be at the bottom of the hill later. Absolutely. There's no sanitation and all that kind of stuff. He said, it makes no sense. People have to live this way. So I'm going to be an engineer, which is completely foreign to us. I'm going to be an engineer, and I'm going to use technology to enhance the lives of people who have been historically and geographically underserved and underrepresented. He wrote that. That was his personal value proposition, and he's been following that ever since. So when he gets to undergrad, he starts telling me, I got to get my PhD. So before he goes to school, I got to get my PhD. I got to go to a school to prepare me so I can get a PhD. I got to go to PhD at this. I got to get my PhD from this kind of school, from these elite schools. I got to get some of the top internships to prepare me. And so he did that. He got his PhD. He got 7 PhD offers from undergrad, including Carnegie Mellon. So he went to Carnegie Mellon. He got his PhD in electrical and computer engineering. He got that for free. Actually, they paid him to go to school. Then he said, I want to start my own company, and I don't want someone later on to come by and tell me I don't know how to run a company, so I need to get my MBA. So he applied and got it. He accepted to 4 of the top MBA programs. He got a full ride. He's at NYU. So he just finished his first year.
He is his thought process is basically reverse design as well.
Yes.
That's his entire thought process.
Yes.
That is amazing.
He's the real engineer. He's the real engineer.
Wow. He is. Jeez. So clearly the cycle's broken. I know that your relationship with your son, you're very proud of your son. Your son is extremely successful now. Not only did you improve the relationship between father and son, but because of your relationship with your son is now going to improve the lives of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people throughout the world through his engineering work. And it's amazing how you've done this. Now, the thing is you're not just doing this. I'm going to give compliment to your son, but I also want to say that you are also sharing your theories, your concepts, your work with other people. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So when he left, and he was leaving in 2012, and so the 16-year-old and his 46-year-old father are sitting in the garage, and I'm in the car crying like a big baby, and he's looking at me like, dude, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, dude, you're leaving. And he said, yeah, right. You've raised me to dream, dude. This is the dream. I don't got a short window of time to see if I can play professional soccer. I don't want to be here in America. I don't want to play soccer in college. I want to play in the big leagues. I want to play in Europe. I want to play in Spain. I need to get out of here. Okay, cool. He says, but Dad, well, what are your dreams? And I was like, I don't have any. Like, you were my dream. I dreamt of your life being better than mine. And so here we are. And he said, Dad, it's not too late. You still have time. You can do more. And I turned to him and I'm like, I don't know what that means. What are you talking about? What do you want me to do? He said, Dad, do for everybody else what you've done for me. Show other families how to do for their children what you've shown me how to do. And so that was the challenge that he gave me. He threw the gauntlet down and told me to do more of my life. And so what I understood him to tell me was to share with other families this very same process that we've used, this very same backward design process, this educational way of this. I think I mentioned the other day, we have a system called the ASS, and it's not profanity. It's the academic success strategy. But there are 20 things that I would ask him to do every day. There are 7 things I'd ask him to do each week. There are 3 to 4 things we would do every quarter or semester. We'll begin with vision boards and an ideal of where you want to go, and then working backwards. And he said, hey, show other folks how to do that. And so that's what I've been doing ever since then.
You know, for more information on Nate Turner, you can there will be a link in the podcast notes going directly to his website. I highly recommend parents. I highly recommend educators, child psychiatrists, psychologists, learning centers to please go to his website, look at what he's doing. He's absolutely improving the lives of kids. I do want to finish this this interview with something. Your dad wanted you to be Nate Turner. Okay. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who is a history buff, anybody who knows about slavery, Nate Turner, the story of Nate Turner is quite unique. There is a movie, and it's a phenomenal movie about his life and about what he did. Nate Turner could read. And the thing is Nate Turner was a very educated slave at the time. Mm-hmm. And what he would do is, because of his education, because of his charisma, because of what he did, his owner, and I hate to use that word, but his slave master, whatever you want to call it, used to loan him out to other plantations throughout his area. The thing is what they did not know is Nate Turner was actually educating other people. And by educating those other slaves, he was actually freeing their mind. And he was freeing their mind to really stop the cycle of slavery. And today, and I had a podcast a couple weeks ago dealing with slavery and about being free. And freedom is not just no chains. Sometimes we put ourselves in chains, in bondage, just through our own thought process. And I'm going to tell you, your dad wanted you to be a revolutionary. Your dad wanted you to do this. And you know what? Your dad, even though he's not here to see this, your dad got what he wanted. He absolutely got what he wanted. He may not have gotten exactly what he wanted, but he got what he wanted. So sometimes it's like, watch what you ask for. But in this case, we're glad he did it. And again, you are the modern day, the 21st century Nate Turner. But what you are doing is you are absolutely freeing minds of young children. This story right here is probably going to free the mind of a lot of parents who are struggling. It's going to free the mind of a lot of relationships, like joint minds of relationships between father and son, and even mother and daughter, for that matter. I'm so glad. It's funny. You said something. Your dad says you get out, okay, but yet, 30 years later, almost, you're sitting there saying, I don't want you to leave. And it's funny how that cycle stopped just in that. My dad wanted me out. I wanted my kid to stay. And you had your son sitting there saying, hey, I want you to follow your dreams. You gave me everything I needed. And then your father telling you, you could have done more.
Right.
It is a total flip of what's going on. Nate, thank you for sharing this story. Like I said, please go to his website. Please, again, I can't. I'm speechless. Your story is phenomenal. It could be shared. Please go to his website. Look at what he's got to do. Thank you for what you're doing for communities throughout the country, and thank you for sharing your son with us. We absolutely appreciate it. He is definitely an inspiration for young people throughout the world. We'll be right back right after this.
Do you have the next big thing? That world-changing whatchamacallit? Do you have a story to tell? You need a show-stopping web presence. You need the web spinners at Webinet. With big picture solutions spinning together SEO, stellar web design, blogging, podcasts, and social media integrations, you'll find yourself developing your latest and greatest thing, idea, or telling that next chapter in your story. Look us up today at webinet.com, and remember, you're not everywhere unless you're Webinet.
Welcome back to the program. I just amazed at what Nathaniel Turner talked about, and he's right. All the things that he said and the things that he did. If you do a lot of research, you can be fantastic at what you do. And he has raised an outstanding young man. He is now grown and doing his thing. I understand that, but I'm just amazed at what, if you take strong care in research, the things that you can do even out of fear and even out of uncertainty, what you could do in that situation. We were talking, Nathaniel Turner. I know everybody knows there was a movie called Birth of a Nation. Fantastic movie, came out back, I think 2015, something like that. Might be a little bit earlier than that. But it was a movie about a slave by the name of Nathaniel Turner. And Nathaniel Turner was a revolutionary. He had a couple slave revolutions, and honestly, he actually he was one of the instrumental people to start the end of slavery through, because it was almost to the point to where people like Nathaniel Turner was making slavery just an unsustainable institution. And I'm so thankful for that. But he was a revolutionary that changed things. Our Nathaniel Turner, the Nathaniel Turner of the 21st century, same thing. He's a revolutionary. He is changing things. He is doing things through the reverse design. He's actually teaching other people, backward design, forgive me. He is teaching people through backward design how to parent, how to do things, and the advances that you can do and the things that you could do. The mind of a child is just outstanding. And the things that through research and things like that, the things that the ability that children have, it's just unreal. And he has totally tapped in to the full potential of his child. And as a result, he has tapped into the full potential of his parenting. I want to end today's podcast. If you are listening to this podcast right now on the 30th of August, you probably heard news it was on multiple news stations that Johnny Gaudreau, he is a hockey player. He was a very good hockey player, extremely talented. He played for the Calgary Flames and he played for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He tragically died. Him and his brother both died. They were hit by a car while exercising. They were riding their bikes in New Jersey. There are a lot of reports that are out. Some people say that it was an illegal lane change. Some people say I don't know. It's just the beginning. But the end result is, unfortunately, both brothers passed away. It is stunning. It is heartbreaking. It is shocking that happened. I lost a child, and I can only imagine how the parents feel today. And I really can't imagine, because the brothers were together so they can see their sister get married. And their sister was supposed to be married on August 30th. So the night before the wedding, the two brothers died. As parents, I can only imagine, when you have adult kids, I have adult kids now, you look forward to opportunities when all the kids can get together, because you know what, when you raise your kids right, and we were just talking about this during our interview segment, when you raise your kids right, sometimes your kids don't have time to be together all the time. They've got lives of their own and they have to do things. And when, as a parent, when you see all your children together, especially when you're done with your job and you see all the children together, that is a moment that you look forward to. Absolutely a moment you look forward to. I look forward to it all the time when I can get all my kids together. And I'm sure that everybody else in the audience who have adult kids believe the same. And to know that this morning, instead of getting ready for their daughter's wedding, they have to prepare for their son's funeral, both of their sons' funeral. And I feel extremely sorry and extremely bad for them. And I am literally praying for their sanity. I know that the death of a child, the immediate impact is horrible. And you think that it can't get worse, but that impact when you lose a child, there are so many other things that happen after that, years after that's over. It's a domino effect. It affects the entire family. It affects your psyche. It affects community. It affects everything. And my heart goes out to the Goudreau family. I hope that you find peace anywhere you can. And I know that you have millions of people throughout North America and probably throughout the world that are praying for you today. Last thing I want to say about this is, we all, and this is going to sound so cold, we all have an appointment that we do not know the date and we do not know the time, but we are not going to be late. We're going to make that appointment, guaranteed. And we are definitely going to make it. We do not know the date. We do not know the time, but we are not going to be late. We're going to be on time for that appointment. And with that being said, I'm thinking about Johnny Goudreau. He was probably riding his bike, talking to his brother, probably chatting away, because you've seen people ride their bike in tandem. I know I do it all the time, and I ride my bike, and I'm sitting there running my mouth. Sometimes I have headphones in and listening to music or something on the radio or something on a podcast or whatever, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. I'm riding my bike, thinking about what I'm going to do next. And I'm sure that that's what Johnny Goudreau, and his brother were doing. They were riding their bike and they're probably thinking about, well, we got to hurry up and get back because we have to, we want to be well rested for tomorrow's wedding and things like that. Johnny, we are just a few short weeks away from NHL preseason, and we are probably less than 9-10 days away from mini camps and camps starting in the NHL. And I'm sure he was getting ready for his upcoming season. He signed a long-term deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So he wasn't planning on going anywhere on the 29th of August, 2024. He was planning on living his life. And at his age, he was only 31 years old. He was planning on living a very long life. And he should have been living a very long life. But as a result, like I said, his appointment time was here, and he had to go. And what I have to tell you, everybody here, live life. The 4 Ps that we have with the 4 Ps, planning, passion, purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. Yeah, do that, please. Live your life planning for the future. Live your life for the future, but please recognize that this could be it. Please recognize that this could be it. So what I want you to do is I want you to go out and enjoy life. When you say goodbye to your kids, when you say goodbye to your mother or father, when you say goodbye to your brothers and sisters, when you say goodbye to your friends, tell them you love them, tell you how you feel. If you see the sun setting, pull over, absorb that sunset. There are so many beautiful things that are on this earth that our Creator has given us. Enjoy those times. Try to live it as if it is your last day. Appreciate it, because we do not know when it's over. And once again, like I said, I do feel bad for the Goodrow family, but let this be something for us to reflect on today. Let's reflect on the fact that, tomorrow is not promised. The next hour is not promised. And let's live it. So when we do, our last act that we have done was an act that we are proud that we did. And it's an act that brought joy, either to ourselves through looking at the sunset, or to others by just simply saying hello, or saying that you care about them, or saying that you love them. We will be back, and next week we're going to go back to the 2 weeks, and I can't wait for that. We have a lot of great guests. Next week we will have a story of an immigrant out of Vietnam. And when you hear this woman's story, you will admire her not only as a person, but as an entrepreneur. You guys have a great week. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.